In the last video, you guys all saw that I actually sold a home that I was doing the Airbnb business out of, and I did get a request to actually make a video or a follow-up video about my experience with Airbnb, the pros and cons that I had, what I would do differently. So if you're interested, make sure to stick around. What's going on, everyone? I hope you're all doing well. If you're new here, my name is Serge. Welcome to the channel. To all my reoccurring viewers, thank you so much for all the love and support that each and every single one of you have shown this channel. I greatly appreciate it. If you have not yet, make sure to go check out the God Made podcast, also Legion Assisted Living Academy and Legion Assisted Living Advisors in the links down below. And please, if you haven't, make sure to hit that like button for me, smash that subscribe button for me. And without further ado, let's go ahead and actually jump into the topic of this video. Now, the very first thing I want to actually touch on is my rate from 1 to 10 on how my experience was hosting on Airbnb and really just doing vacation rental as a general business, right? As just a general idea of what my experience was like. So 1 being the worst, the absolute worst, and 10 being the absolute best. It was the most amazing thing ever. My rate is actually 6.8, and I'm going to explain exactly why that is. And that's mainly in combination of hosting on Airbnb and hosting on VRBO, managing 2 listings on both, what my experience really was. Now, the very first con that I want to talk about with Airbnb and hosting on Airbnb was really the fact that Airbnb did not keep on the side of hosts. The idea is that customers are always right regardless of what happens, what goes on. If a customer wants to return something, if something happens, the customer is always right. And that is usually the case with most businesses, no matter what. If it's a service type business or if it's any type of hospitality business, the customer is always right. Regardless of how you feel, you really have no say. And that was the case with Airbnb. Even if there was damage done to your property, Airbnb would somehow find a way to actually keep the guest side. And they would always side with the guests no matter what. And they would make it really hard for hosts to actually get their money from the damages that were done. For instance, the security deposits. I don't even know if they truly even charge or have a security deposit hold on the guest side of things. I remember just going and being a guest on Airbnb. They never actually held a security deposit on my credit card or anything. So I don't believe they really actually do that. And I've actually stayed at Airbnbs and I've never seen that. So therefore, from the host side of things, if there's something done, they actually really never have a security deposit. And I feel like that is why hosts end up getting ghosted by Airbnb anytime you try to reach out for that security deposit. Now, a pro I would say with Airbnb compared to like VRBO and other hosting platforms, it's easy to use and it's easy to actually go on there, book a place or even accept requests or inquiries. But I will say though, the one thing that I did not like about their platform and really all the platforms in general, and I think they need to like work on this a lot more, is being able to actually vet your guests a lot better. For instance, there's people that can actually go and book a place and book a certain amount of nights or whatever the case is that someone does when they're booking. And let's say they come and they stay at your place and they end up being, whether they end up doing drugs or they end up doing some crazy stuff at your property, throwing parties, whatever, right? And they end up leaving and you're left with this property that's all messed up and dirty and nasty, and you leave them a bad review, right? And other guests go on there, they look, they're like, oh no, this is not a good guest. Well, the thing is, that guest can actually go and just make another account, right, under a different name, under an alias, and actually just come back and book your place again. And now you're stuck with the same person again, booking your place and ruining it, right? Because you can't vet them, and oftentimes what would happen is that you wouldn't be able to actually see the person's profile picture or to see if they're even old enough to be booking your place, because that's how parties ended up getting thrown at your place, because there were these young kids that were booking Airbnbs, and you wouldn't be able to tell if they were young because you wouldn't see their profile picture until after you accepted their request. Another pro was that it was very nice that they were able to handle all of the finances. I didn't ever have an issue of not getting paid out by Airbnb or any of the other platforms. So that was something that they actually nailed and they did a good job about, right? You would always get your payments. And if someone wasn't able, like let's say they charged a card and the card for some reason got declined because they pre-authorized it before they actually booked the place, and if it didn't go through, Airbnb would put like a pending hold on that guest until their payment went through, which was really nice because now you're not having to deal with the headache of someone not paying you for the nights that they stayed there. So that was another thing that I will give Airbnb and other vacation rental platforms, is the fact that overall I enjoyed the fact that I didn't have to deal with any of the taxes. It all got withheld and I didn't really have to deal with that. Now, another con is that even though Airbnb came out with this later and they finally put some regulations, and I don't know how well it's really going now because I did sell it, and I haven't had this happen to me as of lately, or even when I was hosting, was parties, right? Parties are illegal. Airbnb will ban you. And I don't know how they're keeping track of those guests, of banning them or finding them. And I don't know if those guests are able to actually make another profile. I don't know how they're able to do that unless they're requiring that same guest put their like social security in, things of that nature. I don't know, but that was something that I will say Airbnb finally started cracking down on, because I felt, or maybe they felt like the liability is just too big and too many people were throwing parties. Now, let's actually go into the topic of what would I do differently if I were to go back and start again, which I potentially may do in the future, who knows. But I will say what I would do differently is I wouldn't get a bunch of things for guests to do. Meaning I wouldn't get, like, for instance, I had the cornhole game. And the cornhole game really is sacks and you throw them into a board that has a hole in it. That's really what it is. So, and you got 2 of them. And so I bought this thing and it probably didn't even last the first 5 guests. One of the guests ended up busting one of the boards completely, and there you go. It was broken. And there's people that actually are known for having all these cool activities that you can do when you're staying at the Airbnb, which is fine and dandy, but those people are usually charging a lot more money than the average Airbnb host. They got way nicer houses. They're able to afford all kinds of things being broken or being replaced, so they're not too worried, right? But for instance, like for your average Airbnb host, if you're just getting into it, don't get too caught up in trying to provide all these guests all these cool activities to do, because a lot of that stuff will get broken, and your just overall stuff gets like wear and tear. Just overall, it will happen. So with that though, that is something I probably wouldn't do as much, is trying to provide all these different things for the guests, including like Keurigs. You can provide that kind of stuff, and you can make sure that you provide all the pods, but don't try to provide too many of those things. Another thing that I would probably do is bunk beds. Do not do bunk beds. That will definitely end up not working that well, because when you go to clean your sheets and everything with bunk beds, it just makes it a lot harder for the cleaners. And so that is probably what I wouldn't do if I were to start Airbnb again. And that is pretty much what I have for you all. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. If you guys did, make sure to hit that like button for me, smash that subscribe button, and make sure to hit any of these videos. Go watch all these videos, and please subscribe if you haven't, and I will talk to you all in the next video. God bless.